Hello there, fellow YouTubers and WWE fans. This is TW Wrestling Talk. Today, I'm going to cover the this past week's SmackDown. I guess what you'd call the June 22nd edition of Friday Night SmackDown. Which I want to say first off, to me was as good, or if not maybe even a little better than this past week's Raw. First off, let me talk about the opening segment of SmackDown that featured the Big Show. He cut as far as storyline wise, or the direction that Big Show is being taken. To me, it's mediocre news to learn that Big Show's gonna be, well, apparently he's gunning for the Money in the Bank match. Next month in July. Mediocre news, I say, because I really think they rushed through. They just rushed through the whole Cena thing, with him and Big Show and John Laurinaitis. I feel like they rushed through it too quickly. At least that's the way it seems. It seems like that whole thing's over now between him and John Cena. As I said, the week before on Raw, where, after Big Show knocked out Mr. McMahon by accident when he was going for Cena, there's so much potential there coming out of that show, creatively with Big Show. I thought they could have done more there. Maybe they will in the future, but I'm a little mediocre news because Big Show and the Money in the Bank match is kind of something new, something we're not really used to. I could be wrong, but I don't recall Big Show ever being in a Money in the Bank match. Maybe I might be missing a time where he has been in one, but anyhow, this new back to heel Big Show, or kind of this new I'm just going to be the giant that I am kind of Big Show in the Money in the Bank match does sound pretty interesting. Let's face it. He's not the kind of guy you would think that would win Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is usually used as a match to, get a new star, an eventual world championship match. It's a match to elevate someone, basically to the main event level. We saw last year Daniel Bryan. He's probably the best example in the past couple of years of someone who was elevated, to the main event status and kind of stayed at that level because he won Money in the Bank. CM Punk is kind of another example as far as Big Show being the first one to declare, I'm going to be in this match, I'm going for Money in the Bank, I want to be I'm going to be WWE champion. Note how he said that, not world heavyweight champion. I think it's interesting. I don't think they would have him win it. Let's face it. He's 40 years old. Granted, it would be interesting if he won for sure, but I just don't see him winning it. But either way, it's interesting that he's going to be thrown into that mix. On one hand, the other hand, I still kind of wish they would have done. They had so much potential with what they were doing with Big Show recently in the Laurinaitis story, but it seems like they're kind of swaying away from that, which didn't really become clear until SmackDown, which I kind of criticized last week's Raw for not really advancing anything really. Anyways, so now we kind of know what direction Big Show is going, what they're going with Big Show. So that's, on one hand, that's decent. We had Brodus Clay come out who began attacking the Big Show, and which, you know, that in itself, you know, could that be like a maybe somewhat of a rivalry, you know, in the making right now, or, you know, maybe just a minor rivalry, since, you know, we would expect to see Big Show in the Money in the Bank match. Maybe it'll just be like kind of a sort of a rivalry in the coming weeks, I guess, maybe, but, you know, probably not. Who knows? But anyways, on that note, David Otunga came out and started helping the Big Show, you know, attack, you know, kind of distract, you know, basically double team on Brodus Clay. So I mean, it's interesting. Could we see an alliance there? You know, both of those guys walked out on Johnny Ace last week on Raw. You know, so I mean, and they were kind of aligned in a way. So I mean, you know, there's somewhat of a relation there. So, you know, who knows? Maybe we'll see an alliance there. I mean, maybe they'll align themselves. Maybe they could eventually be like a new tag team or something. Or I don't know. Maybe get David Otunga a championship, some form. But you know, I mean, that opening segment I think was pretty good. You know, good promoing as usual from Big Show. I really think he's undercredited for his promoing ability, and he's pretty good, gotta admit. And yeah, I mean, sort of an interesting segment there. Secondly, towards the middle of the show, we had AJ, of course, involved in a match as usual, but with Daniel Bryan and Kane. No CM Punk, which I don't think it didn't hurt SmackDown, certainly not to have him there. Kane and Daniel Bryan had a decent match, I would say. They, you know, towards the end of the match, which, you know, makes things more interesting. AJ was sitting by the bell. She was ringing the bell when Kane was in the label lock. However, he wasn't tapping, and the ref made that clear, and the ref ordered the match to continue. So you know, the match continues, and, you know, Daniel Bryan's kind of arguing with the referee, I believe, and, you know, he's a little flustered, and then Kane out of nowhere choke slam, 1, 2, 3, pinfall, victory for Kane. It was an interesting match. For one thing, first, you know, what kind of makes it interesting is, you know, AJ was, you know, has been getting a positive reception lately. She's, you know, it's like she kind of just turned babyface, just the way they've been using her. Kind of on, you know, she just kind of turned babyface on her own. Not only that, she's at this time she might be the most, you know, popular diva, you know, at least attention-wise. She's involved in the World Heavyweight Championship storyline. Her role, even though she's not even wrestling really, just the role she's playing is bigger than, you know, any WWE Divas Championship match we've seen lately. I mean, let's face it. You know, the role she's playing her role pretty well, even though she's not really wrestling in any matches. She's playing it pretty well. So, you know. Anyways, we saw once she started ringing the bell when Kane was in the label lock. It was interesting because, you know, here the crowd's booing her, you know, because Kane, I guess, is sort of in this match with CM Punk not really in the picture. Kane is kind of the baby face, you know. He's been like a tweener lately. He'll be, you know, if it's him against CM Punk's the face and he's kind of the heel. But in this case, Kane was kind of the face, and you know, Daniel Bryan was the heel. In the triple threat match, he was kind of a tweener. So that's interesting, I think. And you know, it was interesting how, you know, okay, AJ starts ringing the bell. The match is supposedly over, but no. Then the crowd's booing. The ref declares the match to continue, and then she's at the end. AJ's getting a positive reception once again. For what she's out there doing. I mean, it's just interesting to me. How someone can do something. Well, they can come out, get a positive reception. Favorable. Crowd reaction. Then she can do something, and then the crowd will boo her. Basically, they're booing her. They were booing her there because the match wasn't supposed. King wasn't tapping out, but she was ringing the bell. And then at the end, then she's getting a positive reception again from the crowd. I just find that kind of interesting. So I mean, that was, but it was a pretty decent match. Storyline wise, it was decent. CM Punk wasn't there, but this whole love triangle thing. I mean, who knows how who knows how the three of them will be used coming up to month. Who knows who will face CM Punk? You'd think it would be one of them involved, but you wouldn't think it would be a triple threat rematch. Just a triple threat all over again. That'd be a rarity. But I mean, who knows? I mean, they're at least kind of throwing in new things with that whole love triangle storyline. So I mean, that's interesting in of itself. Even though there's not quite a clear indication of what exactly the match is going to be at Money in the Bank, there's still time to figure that out. But as far as advancing storylines, I think SmackDown, they did what they had to do with them. So decent stuff there. We had a typical Ryback squash match. Hopefully, as usual, hopefully we see him. Hopefully, in the near future, get some more legitimate competition. Maybe have him be used in an interview or something. So hopefully they do something different, with him soon. That's all you can really say there. We had a Santino Marella segment, but short one, but I think it was pretty decent. I mean, for what it was, it was pretty decent. You had like a sign contest or whatever. Obviously, the lady that was that won. Obviously, that was predetermined. But the idea behind it was that this lady with this I Heart Santino sign, who was made out to be just a regular old fan, was handpicked by Santino, the winner of his sign competition. She comes down to the ring and she played. They played their part well, I guess. She laid this big fat kiss on Santino, and Santino, he plays his role well. As this kind of comedian kind of guy. I've said before, there's room for comedy in WWE. We don't need an overabundance of it, but Santino, I have no problem with how they use him. These silly bits, and this one on SmackDown was a good example of why Santino he plays his role pretty well, his comedy role, and it certainly didn't hurt SmackDown. It did just fine. So not bad stuff there. And then lastly, at the main event, we had for maybe I think about probably the third time this month, Dolph Ziggler versus Sheamus, non-title match. I don't mean that to sound like it was a bad thing, because it was a good match. Certainly better and more main event worthy than what Raw's main event was with John Cena and Laurinaitis, and that spiraled downhill once Big Show walked out. But that's a whole nother thing in itself. The point is that this contest between Ziggler and Sheamus was interesting. I mean, Sheamus seemed to control most of the match, which is, that's something he does pretty well. He can control matches pretty well. He can be on the offensive side of the match, better, pretty good for a baby face. Not like some baby faces out there that, they get beat up just kind of most of the match. Sheamus can control a match pretty well on the offensive, which I give him credit for. There's some decent action outside of the ring that occurred. There was, a few decent. There was a couple nice top rope moves from Sheamus. There was an interesting part, interesting ending of the match, where it appeared that Ziggler had Sheamus injured. I believe it was quite a neat ending. I mean, Sheamus was hobbling around suddenly, but Ziggler comes running after him, and then out of nowhere, Sheamus just pulls out the brogue kick out of nowhere. I think this year, 2012, the brogue kick to me seems like so far the finisher of the year, just because it's been highly unpredictable. Obviously the WrestleMania, how it put Daniel Bryan out and ended the match in 18 seconds or whatever. Won Sheamus World Heavyweight Championship, and ever since then, it seems like the brogue kick has just been, to me, the finisher of the year so far. Just the way he pulls it out of nowhere. The way he was hobbling around on his knees, it seemed like, his knee, it seemed like he was faking it, because, maybe he was faking the pain, and, maybe outsmarting Ziggler, just kind of making, okay, so that Ziggler could come running after him, but then he was going to, I'm not sure if that was totally the idea behind it, because then it seemed like Sheamus was kind of in pain a little bit anyways, but, with his leg. But either way, it's pretty cool, how he'll whip out a brogue kick out of nowhere, and Ziggler finds himself on the losing end once again against Sheamus. Who knows what we'll see? Ziggler's starting to get some positive chance, because I know there's people out there that want to see him get pushed, but either way, it's good. It was a good match. A good closing to SmackDown, I'd say, definitely, and a good closing to SmackDown that I think was better than the corresponding Raw from earlier this week. Raw didn't really advance anything. It didn't really advance much at all. Much that was important, that is. Other than, it didn't really hint at anything big. Laurinaitis got fired, but that was kind of a given. But SmackDown, on the other hand, was kind of, it did kind of bring more things to light, such as Big Show. Match-wise, there were, a couple good matches. And Daniel Bryan versus Kane, and of course the main event closer with Sheamus and Ziggler. As far as Raw, there weren't really any matches that really, to me, were any good. It was kind of same old, just the way things seem to go, the matches anyhow. But SmackDown, Ziggler and Sheamus, they can work well together, and they're proving that. Even though they, it was their third match, one-on-one together, I think, in the past few weeks, they can still mix it up pretty well and have a good match, anyhow. So, we'll see if maybe that rivalry will continue, or maybe if Ziggler will end up in the Money in the Bank. We'll see. But Money in the Bank match, we'll see. Guess we'll stay tuned for Raw though. Chris Jericho's making his return, which seems like already he's back. Suspension seemed to go, seemed to fly by. So that's not a bad thing. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Chris Jericho. See how he'll be used. I would think maybe he'll be in the Money in the Bank match, but we'll see. I mean, I believe he's got a tour coming up with Fozzy in maybe a month or so, or after Money in the Bank sometime maybe. So we'll see what happens there. Raw, we'll see if Raw can do better this week. Last week just seemed to be certainly lacking. We'll see if we hear from Brock Lesnar, Triple H. We could be in for an exciting Raw. I mean, who knows? Hopefully more is advanced with stories in good ways. And hopefully we just don't see a lot of the same old that we've been seeing lately and whatnot. So we'll stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. I encourage you guys to subscribe. And I encourage you to stay tuned for the next TW Wrestling Talk episode and future episodes of TW Wrestling Talk. We will discuss Raw after tomorrow night, and try to get that video up as soon as we can. YouTube, sometimes my computers have issues with uploading videos, but try to get them up as soon as we can. Again, thanks for watching, and I encourage you to subscribe and stay tuned for the next edition of TW Wrestling Talk.